You good to go, Jamie?
Yep.
Okay, seeing at 6 p.m., I'd like to call the November 23rd special meeting of the Kenai City Council to order. And if you would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the
of the United States of America and to the republic
which it stands, one nation, under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty
liberty and justice for all.
for all. Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Gabriel,
Here.
Councilmember Naxtet,
Here.
Vice Mayor Malloy.
Here.
Councilmember Winger,
Here.
Councilmember Glendenning. Councilmember Petty. Mayor Gabriel, you have a quorum. I need to mute my background. I have YouTube going on in the background and I'm hearing double.
Okay, very good. Let me know when you want to resume.
Sister, you gotta get out of here, please.
Okay, you can go.
Thank you, Jamie. Okay, before we get to agenda approval, council, I'd like to draw your attention to a laydown you should have in your email today with additional material revisions, requested revisions to the agenda packet, action add to item C1, resolution number 2020-89 amendment memo. And this is requested by Councilmember Naxtet. Pleasure, Council. Vice Mayor Malloy.
Mayor Gabriel, move to approve the agenda with the requested revisions to the agenda and packet listed by the mayor. Request unanimous consent.
Second.
Thank you. Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the agenda is approved. Next, we have public comment. Is there anybody from the general?
Mayor Gabriel, I see Jim trying to raise his hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't see him on my screen. Maybe it's just the view that I have, but thank you for that. Let me see if I can pull him up here. Okay,
I just sent him a notice to unmute, so maybe that will help.
Jim, you're muted, Jim. Jim, you're muted. There you go.
We got it?
Yeah, got you now, Jim.
Okay, I have a point of order, please.
Yes.
I would like to move to divide the question regarding agenda approval to separate D1 new business from C1, which is the topic of tonight's meeting, meaning North Pacific fishery management issues.
Okay, Jamie, a little help on this. Do we need to vote on to divide the question, and what is the required number of votes for passage?
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. It's my understanding that he doesn't want to approve one or the other. And so you can, Jim, which part did you want to vote on first? Which piece do you want to pull out separate from the rest of the agenda? The new business item or the public hearing item?
The new business item, D1.
Okay, so we're gonna vote on the entire agenda except for new business first?
Yeah.
And then we'll vote on new business second?
Please.
Okay, very good. So council, just so you are keeping up here, we are on agenda approval with a request that we divide the question on our agenda, which we have two items. One is a resolution under public hearing. The next is a item under new business. So what we will do is vote to approve item C1 first. Clerk, please call the roll.
This is the whole agenda, except D1. Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Councilmember Naxtet,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Malloy,
I'm sorry, yes.
Councilmember Winger,
Yes.
Councilmember Glendenning,
Yes.
Councilmember Petty,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you, council. The next question is to approve item D1 as and add that to our agenda. Is there any questions? Is there any discussion on, and everybody's clear on what we're doing here? And you might have to help me because I don't have everybody on my screen yet here, Jamie. So if you see somebody that raises their hand, please let me know.
Okay,
Is there any?
nobody's hand is raised.
Okay, very good. Seeing no further discussion on the motion to divide the question, clerk, please call the roll.
This is,
So just for clarification, yes vote would maybe clarify for us what a yes vote means and a no vote means.
a yes vote puts D1 onto the agenda.
Very good, thank you.
Councilmember Naxtet,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Malloy, Vice Mayor Malloy,
Yes.
Councilmember Winger,
No.
Councilmember Glendenning,
No.
Councilmember Petty,
No.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes,
motion fails.
so we have D1 as a discussion item on our agenda, is that correct?
You do not.
We do not. Next up, we have public comment. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to discuss any item that is not on the agenda this evening?
Yes, this is Tim Redder.
Go ahead, Mr. Rutter.
Thank you. My name is Tim Redder, and I work in the city of Kenai. I'm calling in tonight to talk about the COVID pandemic and to make a request to the city council. Specific to COVID, there's a lot of data that's updated daily that keeps us aware of the current situation. However, instead of talking about the data, I'd like to tell you a short story about a 66-year-old man known by his family as Grandpa Jim. Early last month, Grandpa Jim was going about his daily activities when he came down with flu-like symptoms. Since he knew that he had a compromised immune system, he took a COVID test that came back positive. This was on October 7th. 1 week later, Grandpa Jim was admitted to the hospital for treatment. Less than 1 week after that, he was transferred to a regional hospital for more acute care. Since his condition was not improving, he was put on a ventilator to give his body a better fighting chance. On October 31st, the ventilator was removed and he passed away minutes later. Crying next to his bedside was his high school sweetheart, mother of their 5 children, and wife of 47 years. Grandpa Jim had a compromised immune system, but COVID killed him. Grandpa Jim was my father. I don't share this story to seek sympathy. I'm simply trying to spread awareness of the potential impacts that COVID can and does have on individuals with a compromised immune system. According to the state of Alaska health experts, approximately 2/3 of Alaskan adults are susceptible to severe COVID infections due to underlying health conditions such as diabetes, cancer, heart disease, to name a few. And according to recent articles, the vaccine is coming. However, the distribution is going to take some time. And as such, the time to be more diligent in the fight against the pandemic is now. And I'm asking the City Council to implement a mask requirement in public places in the city of Kenai. CDC guidelines put out by infectious disease experts recommend simple measures that are effective against the spread of COVID. Wearing a mask is one of those measures. Unfortunately, wearing a mask has become politicized and therefore polarizing. And let me be clear that I respectfully don't care what the City Council members' political affiliations are. What I care about is the health of every member of our community and the health of our economy. I have friends and colleagues in the Kenai Peninsula who work in essential services businesses that are being significantly impacted by COVID. We need your help with the mask requirement. Lastly, I know that opinions differ on wearing masks, and everyone is certainly entitled to their own opinion. Another thing that we are all entitled to is the fundamental human right to be healthy. It's going to take your leadership as a city council to support that fundamental human right by requiring masks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Redder. Any questions from the council to Mr. Redder? Anybody, Jamie? Well, I guess I could probably speak for the rest of council when we I could extend our condolences for the loss of your father, Mr. Redder. And I thank you for calling in.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Is there anybody else from the general public that would like to address the council at this time on any item that is not on the agenda?
I would. Can you hear me?
Yes. Could you state your name and?
Yeah, my name is Craig Wortham. I'm a general manager for Alyeska Tire. I'm reaching out to you similarly as Tim and asking the city council to initiate some sort of mandate in wearing a mask, more specifically inside businesses. And if I could take a moment, I wrote down a few things I'd like to share my story too, not burden you with statistics, but I'm here to express to you my concerns about economic future of our company and other businesses in the Kenai area. And I ask you to consider mandating mask wearing in businesses. 35% of our annual business is generated in October and November. We have recently shut down 2 stores the last 3 weeks. During that time, we have lost over $250,000, all from COVID exposures outside of our control. Though we have lost the revenue, our fixed costs still remain the same. We have payroll, and the cost of doing business has increased. We have had to spend over $50,000 on acquisition of PPE. We have also spent $20,000 in cleaning our facilities after exposure. The time involved in mitigating, educating, and arguing is overwhelming. We have spent a majority of our time the last 9 months dealing with COVID, be it mitigation plans, acquiring PPE, contracting or contact tracing, educating, consoling our coworkers, cleaning, or simply arguing with customers. It's all consuming. We need to get back to managing our businesses, creating jobs, and providing the services our communities ask of us. I am extremely concerned that something so simple as wearing a piece of fabric over one's face has become so divisive and controversial. It seems self-defeating to argue such a simple thing as requiring a person to wear a mask in a public space. This is not an ideological issue. It's not an issue that should divide us so tribally. We need to wear a mask in public spaces, and we need to require it. Together, we would defeat this virus. Divided, it defeats us. I implore this body to act. I implore this body to do the right thing for our neighbors and our friends. Things are breaking, and politics need to be set aside. We cannot endure this much longer. I buried a good employee last week to this virus. How many more must I bury? I have endured personal ridicule on a daily basis being called a libtard, a communist, a socialist, and more recently a Nazi, all because I asked someone to protect my employees. We must be united on this. I ask my employees to wear a mask to protect you and your loved ones. I ask you to send a message that protects my employees and others in the community. Aliasca Tire injects $1.4 million via payroll into the economy on the peninsula, $1 million annually to the economy of Kenai and Soldotna alone. I am here to tell you that that is in jeopardy. The first thing businesses do to cut costs in times of trouble, they cut the things they can control. That is payroll and inventory acquisitions. Since I have been at Aliasca Tire starting in 1996, we have maintained an average of 10% annual growth. We have created an average of 2 to 3 jobs per year during that time frame. I am here to tell you there is no growth plan on our horizons. There are no plans to create more jobs. We simply don't have the time to do so. I fear that soon we may not have the resources either. The efficacy, I got one more paragraph. The efficacy of masks is simply not debatable. They work. The state knows that, and most municipalities do too. We require masks in the buildings that they manage. I implore you to help. By not acting, you are forcing economic hardship on the businesses. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mr. Wortham. Is there any questions or comments for Mr. Wortham? Jamie, have you got anybody?
No.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I guess I'd like to say that I appreciate it. I got a question for you, Mr. Wortham. When you said that you're being ridiculed or you know, things of that sort, I'm taking it that you have a mask policy for your business. Would that be a correct assumption?
Yes, that's a correct assumption.
Okay. And what's the compliance rate of folks that utilize your business?
Right now, it's 100% compliance because we don't let anybody into the building. But I can tell you that it's probably about, I would say about 40% of the people that come up to our building either turn away and don't do business with us or just leave. A lot of them come in to actually call us names. We've been threatened physically. We had a customer outside of our building in the Soldotna location last week actually block our driveway so that we couldn't have any customer come in and out of our building. It's pretty profound, Mayor Gabriel.
Okay, thank you for that. I just wanted to try to get a better assessment. Like I said, I was assuming that you did require masks from folks. So yeah, anyway, I see Vice Mayor Malloy has his hand up. Bob?
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Yeah, don't have a question. I did comment, also express condolences on the loss of one of your employees. I mean, that's really tragic, and sorry to hear that. You know, I'm a patron of your business. I think you've done a really, really good job in the modifications that you made, and I can see where it's cost you money to do so. You know, in the separation that you created between your employees and you know, patrons, and how you want to have a spacing between people and everything, and even for the exchange of keys, you know, over the counter and everything. And so, you know, I think you've done a really good job under really difficult circumstances. And you know, it's difficult to hear about the other impacts on your business. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Anybody else would like to comment to Mr. Wortham? See no other. Thanks, Craig.
You're welcome.
We'll move on to, is there anybody else that would like to address the council on any item that is not on the agenda at this time?
Yeah, this Jerry Wortham, owner of Aliasca Tire. I'd just like you guys to know that we incorporated wearing a mask mandate right from the very beginning. And we are spiking all over the country. Alaska is spiking. The Kenai Peninsula is spiking. Our hospitals are filling up. Our doctors and nurses are being overworked. We have people dying all over the country, all over the state. I don't know why wearing a mask and keeping social distances is so hard and why it is so political. What we are asking as a small business is for the city of Kenai to incorporate a mandate for masks. I do believe that if we would follow the guidelines, that we could really get this thing under control in a couple of months. I honestly do believe that. By not mandating a mask or social distance, we as a business are being put on the front line. It's like Craig just said, we've had customers almost physically want to fight with us because we ask them to wear a mask. And it's like he says, we're asking them to wear a mask to protect our employees to wear a mask to protect them. It is just that simple. And I just don't understand why we can't mandate a simple task of wearing a mask in the city of Kenai when you go into a place of business. If you guys would do that, you would take so much pressure off of us. We have lost business. We've had customers leave our business mad at us because we asked them to wear a mask. And that's all we're asking of you guys is just put a mandate out there and help us small businesses out. You could play a very important part of this. If you put a mandate on there, then that stops the people from getting so mad at us. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Wortham. Is there anybody that would like to ask any questions or comments for Mr. Wortham? Seeing none, thank you for your comments this evening.
Well, thank you.
Is there anybody else from the general public that would like to address the council on any item that is not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to item C1, resolution number 2020-89, opposing alternative for proposed to the North Pacific Fishery Management Council that would close all federal waters in Cook Inlet to commercial salmon fishing. This is brought forward by myself, pleasure of council. Vice Mayor Malloy.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Move to approve and adopt resolution number 2020-89.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to resolution number 2020-89 at this time?
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. We have a few that signed up to speak. Our first one is Teague Vanek, and it looks like they are on. You can unmute yourself and speak.
Okay, can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm Teague Vanek, and I don't live in Kenai, but I do an awful lot of business there. All the grocery stores and Home Depot and Walmart, and bought our Ford truck there, and do a lot of business, sell a lot of fish in the Kenai River. Commercial fish here all my life, and I urge you to pass the resolution that opposes alternative 4 at the North Pacific Fisheries Management Council for the FMP. If they, it's not even a veiled attempt to put us completely out of business. And I won't be able to buy any more Fords in Kenai, and I probably won't go to Home Depot as often if this passes, if alternative 4 passes. So I strongly urge you to pass this resolution opposing alternative 4. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vanek. Any questions of Mr. Vanek from the council? Seeing none, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vanek. Next up, Ms. Hines.
The next one is Roland Ma, and it looks like he's also on the phone. You can unmute yourself using, I believe, *6 if you're on your phone, Roland. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you. Go on.
Okay. Thank you. Mayor Gabriel, members of council. I'd like to address two issues with you this evening. One is the issue of timeliness, and the other one is of substantive issues of what's going to happen. On the time issue, I appreciate the timeliness with which and the response that this council is coming forward. Just put it in the record, this alternative 4 and its discussion as to what it meant did not come about years ago. It came about just a matter of a few days ago, and the document that talks about it was not available until November the 10th of this year. And that's 17 days before the close of public comment. Of those 17 days, 2 are national holidays. And that is a grave concern to us. And in terms of public process, this thing is happening way too fast. Lots of companies, councils, various, the borough and have just not had time to process this, to go out to the public. But I do appreciate very much the timeliness with which the city of Kenai has stepped forward to make your feelings known to the North Pacific Council. Now, in terms of substance, if this alternative 4 goes forward, and some of the other alternatives as well, I don't know if you've read the comments of Matt Hakkinen, who is speaking on behalf of E&E Seafoods Packstar. He's made it very plain in his public testimony, a written testimony to the council, that if this Amendment 4 goes through, they will close the plant. It's that plain, that simple. So as you drive down over the hill, headed off to the flats, there will be not a single plant there that'll be processing fish. And who would have thought we would be at this juncture, even 10 years ago, standing this industry on its head, putting it out of business after, we've been here well over 100 years. And I know you're struggling with what to do with the properties as leases are renewed or not renewed, and the city dock. We've worked with some of you on the council on that issue, and we appreciated that. But there has to be a demand. There has to be some fish caught. And even this last summer, one of the other processors, Copper River, that was also one of the major buyers, they trucked all their fish to Anchorage until that plant got hit with COVID, and then they moved the Kenai fish all the way to Cordova for processing, simply because of the things that were going on, not just with COVID, but with the way the fisheries are being managed in the Cook Inlet. And then the only other processor you have left is Icicle over in Seward. And we've yet to see their public comments, although we've talked with them privately. And I think there's a very high risk that the Seward plant will also close. And so here we are, and the council is going to make some kind of a recommendation to the North Pacific. Well, the council, meaning the North Pacific Council, will make a recommendation to NOAA NIMS. And then they're going to have to look at it. And about a year from now, we will know what NOAA NIMS has decided as to what the future of our fishery looks like. But in any event, this alternative 4, it's very damaging. It's virtually going to shut down the entirety of the fishery in Cook Inlet. Because if you don't have at least one major plant on the Kenai or Kasilof processing fish, then that means they're all going to have to be trucked out of here to someplace else. And that's going to affect the set net fisheries, just not the drift fishery, and the set net fisheries even north of the Farlands. So anyway, there is a sense of urgency and a little bit of sense of desperation in this. But, I appreciate the council. I appreciate your taking this matter up, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ma. Is there any questions of Mr. Ma? Seeing none, we'll move to the next person I would like to speak, Ms. Hines.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. That's John McCombs.
Good evening.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Yes.
got you, John.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is John McCombs. I live in Ninilchik, where we had 2 seafood processors. Now they are out of business. Please consider the poetic language within the Magnuson-Stevens Act to preserve the character of coastal communities. Remember, the state has been out of compliance for 30 years. The feds have dragged their feet for 7 years. None of the 4 alternatives were written by fishermen. None of the 4 alternative FMPs comply with the 10 national standards of the Magnuson-Stevens Act. All the alternatives are not fish plans. All the alternatives are non-compliant government plans to not fish. I'm disgusted by the government's non-compliance. I oppose alternatives 1, 2, 3, and 4 as written, and I appreciate you taking this issue up and trying to do something with our economy. If you look around your neighborhood there in Kenai, how it's changed over the years and how it's lost a lot of its character based on non-compliance with Magnuson-Stevens Act. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McCombs. Any questions for Mr. McCombs? I do have a question, I guess. You do use commercial drift net fish in Cook Inlet?
I do. I halibut fish. I've been participated in other fisheries here over the years as well.
Okay, so what would be the effect of closing, or if they did implement alternative 4, which would be closing federal waters in Cook Inlet to commercial fishing? What would that affect? What kind of an effect would that have on your business? I guess I'd ask.
Pretty much eliminated, because the fish we fish offshore, and the EEZ hasn't even been designated. They don't. Nobody knows where it is. It's an arbitrary line, and under the under alternative 4, we would be forced to fish within 3 miles of the beach, which you as a set netter, you realize that the set net gear is out there 1.5 miles, so we wouldn't be fishing in 3 miles. We've been fishing in 1.5 miles, minus the 600 feet that we have to stay off the set net gear. So quite a reduction in production, quite a reduction in time and area. And yes, over the years, nobody's bothered to mention the fact that the drift fleet has been kicked out of Area 2, which is that area between, north of Calgon Island off the mouth of the Kenai River and up to the Forelands, which historically has always been one of the most productive areas. And we've lost time and area at every Board of Fish meeting, and this is just the last nail in the coffin.
Thank you, Mr. McCombs. Any questions of Mr. McCombs? Seeing none, we'll move to our next person wishing to testify, Ms. Hines.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. The last one I have listed is Steve Vanek.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Van.
hello. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Mr. Vanek.
Oh, good. Thank you. And I appreciate you taking up this matter. And I have to ditto what John McCone said. I've been a drift fisherman out here in the inlet for 55 years. I moved to the Kenai Peninsula in 1964. So I know what the fishery is like out here. and where we catch the fish. And if you get rid of as John McComb said, they don't really identify exactly where the line is because nobody knows where the line is, except federal waters is anything beyond 3 miles. Now they have in their map, the council in their map shows a line from the Nilchuk to Calgon, south end of Calgon Island, and anything south of that is called the federal waters. But that's what they say, but that's not what is in the as described as federal waters. Federal waters is anything beyond 3 miles. So about the nearest thing you could say is that when they go to headland to headland, that would be put it up at the forelands, and anything below that, we would be prohibited from fishing 3 miles offshore. And I can tell you, in the 55 years I fished here, we're not catching any fish there. And then when you think about the set netters, what they fish 3 days this year because they're tied to the king salmon. So the fish are not going to be caught because we don't catch them in that mile and a half as John McCombs described. And then the set netters may not even be fishing because of the king salmon. So it's a death knell. This number 4 is a death knell for the fishery, and it is being pushed by the state. That should be. Remember who's on the council. The state of Alaska has 6 of the 11 members, so it's being pushed by the state to put us out of business, and which means there'll be no raw fish tax, which can be substantial for the communities, including Kenai. So it is really a bad deal here, and I really appreciate you taking it up, and I encourage you to pass this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vanek. Is there anybody that has any questions for Mr. Vanek? Seeing none, thank you for that. Do we have anybody else online, Ms. Hines, that would like to testify?
I don't have anybody else signed up, so if there's anybody else that would like to speak to the council at this time, you can use your raise hand feature on your Zoom, or use the *9 if you're on your phone. Roland Ma raised his hand again.
But he's already spoken.
Yes.
Anybody else wishing to testify?
If you just want to unmute yourself, if you haven't already testified, if you just want to unmute yourself and state your name, if you want to testify.
This is David Martin.
Okay, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm a 49-year commercial fisherman in Cook Inlet, and I also would like to thank the council for bringing this resolution 2020-89 forward and have this special meeting to address with it in the time frame that's put out before us there. And I wholeheartedly support your resolution. I thought it did a good job of explaining the points that's going on in option 4 here. A couple of things that haven't been mentioned about the importance of the fishery beyond the 3 miles out in the middle is some people, that's where they exclusively fish years ago, and before we had restrictions keeping us out of there by the state management. Some people, that's the only place they'd fish, and for the bulk of us, That's where we catch the bulk of our fish, probably up to 70-80% in some years. It's also an indicator to the department of the fish harvested in this area of what the run strength is to calibrate the amount of fish in the inlet with the test boat that's going on at the southern line there at Anchor Point Line. So without commercial fisheries out there, the department's actually managing in the blind of not knowing how many fish are in there. It's also where the highest quality salmon is. That's when they first come in. They got the highest oil content. Really good for the marketing. It spreads out the harvest, and most all the fish in Cook Inlet go to the fresh market, and that demands a higher price for it. Some of you know the quality control that's been put on by the fishermen years ago of icing fish, putting them in slush bags, bleeding them, so it demands a higher price at the fresh market. And this area also is the only area where the commercial fisheries the drift fleet can harvest the other species of salmon in the inlet, which are in the millions, especially on pink ears. By fishing in the 3 miles on the east side, it would basically just be a Kenai Kasilof sockeye fishery. So it's important for that. Option 4 would essentially close the commercial fisheries in Cook Inlet. And the Magnuson-Stevens Act incorporates the fishery, which is all waters of anadromous salmon, not just the easy waters. So it's completely out of compliance, along with what was mentioned on the other 3 proposals or options. And just one last fact, it is pretty sad and is very alarming that the state of Alaska would be behind this systematic effort to virtually eliminate the commercial fishing industry in Cook Inlet. And even more alarming is to be hardened to the harmful effects being inflicted on the citizens, the businesses, and our communities, and the waste of an important national food source, which is our valuable renewable salmon resource. And a lot of these people that are affected are homesteaders that have came up to Alaska in the 40s and 50s and made this state and made this borough. And to be treated in this manner by the state is just astounding for that. And I commend you guys for coming through with this resolution, but it's going to take more than this to right the wrong that's being done to the commercial fishing industry in Cook Inlet, and I hope we get your continued support, which I know we will, on turning this back to make this a fishery has a potential to be, if managed properly for maximum sustained yield, to be second only to Bristol Bay in both numbers of salmon in sockeye and in value. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Is there any anybody would like to ask Mr. Martin a question, comment? Seeing none. Is there anybody else that would like to provide public testimony this evening on resolution number 2020-89?
If you do, you can use *6 if you're on your phone to unmute your phone and say something, or unmute yourself on Zoom. Mayor Gabriel, I don't see anyone raising their hands or unmuting themselves at this point.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hines. With that, we'll bring it back to the body. And since I'm the sponsor of this, I would probably be appropriate for me to ask to pass the gavel this time to Vice Mayor Malloy and ask to be recognized.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. You're recognized to speak to your resolution.
Thank you very much. So this is one of those things that I think a lot of us would rather prefer to let things work its way through the process. Is such as it is in this case with this fisheries management plan that is that the North Pacific Fisheries Council is asked to implement for Cook Inlet. This is a fairly complex issue. As you know, I think there was a suit that was brought against the state back in 2006 regarding management of federal fishing waters within Cook Inlet. And there was a ruling back in 2016 that they need to come up with a fisheries management plan to be in compliance with the Magnuson-Stevens Act. So another component of this is and we talk about several alternatives here, 1, 2, 3, we're up to 4 now. And if you read your memo or the memo and the resolution, you realize is that the alternative 4 was something that was interjected at the last meeting after 3 years of this process of trying to implement the FMP, kind of, 2 minutes, not even the fourth quarter, but the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter to implement this option to close federal waters within commercial fishing that have been traditionally fished by the drift fleet and have actually been some of their more productive fishing grounds. So I think if you look, one of the components, so just to kind of fall back here a little bit, one of the reasons we didn't go into alternatives 1, 2, and 3, I think those sort of are within the, and they've been part of the discussion for long enough that I think folks are aware of. Those are probably within the sideboards of what we would expect or what the public would generally expect to see out of a fisheries management plan. Another thing to consider is that as part of the Magnuson-Stevens Act, I think there's approximately 10 national standards that come into play when they deliberate this sort of action. And under National Standards 8 is called communities. And under 4C in that section, it says specifically in here, FMPs must examine the social and economic importance of fisheries to communities potentially affected by management measures. So I think it's incumbent upon us as the city of Kenai, under that standard alone within Magnuson-Stevens, to stand up at this point when this alternative 4 sort of came to the forefront to say, hey, this really isn't, it should not be an option because it's going to adversely affect our community with a historical industry that has provided economic, social, and employment opportunities for the city of Kenai. So I just hope that the rest of the body will, maybe send a vote in favor of this resolution so, that our voice will be heard and we can have the drift fleet as a economic or part of our economic fabric in the city of Kenai and retain some of those the processors, because that's some of the testimony you heard this evening. There's sort of this domino effect that could take place, or cascade, or whatever you want to call it, that if you eliminate this area of fishing for the drift fleet, you're eliminating the feedstock of product for the fish, for the processors. They're private businesses. There'll be no reason for them to stick around. And then when that happens, you've got the SEDNet fleet's going to be in trouble too if they don't have any processors to sell to. So with that, I'll conclude my comments and ask to have the gavel back.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel, and you have the gavel back.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. I'll be calling on the rest of the body. Any other comments or discussion? Councilmember Naxton.
Yeah, I'd like to start out with thanking you, Mayor Gabriel, for sponsoring this resolution and bringing it to our attention, at least mine. Not that I didn't know something was going on. I certainly didn't know to this depth. And this alternative number 4, I find astounding in a very, very negative way. I can't imagine how it would actually be included. Also, I wanted to thank all the commercial fishermen that are on here tonight. And I know that there's a lot of others in the background too that aren't here that are writing letters and pushing back through the CETA's that action item letter that I had seen over the weekend. So anyway, in looking at it, of course, there's other alternatives. Alternative one is not going to fly due to the legal reasons. And I saw that UCETA actually had chosen one of the other alternatives as a possible preferred route to go, but with some modifications. And since it's not real clear necessarily how alternative 2 or 3 may end up in the end, I think that it's important for our resolution to denounce alternative 4 and perhaps be silent on the other alternatives. And I've got an amendment to our resolution. I can do it a little later time after others have had a chance to talk. That just will kind of solidify that we weren't like supporting alternative 2 and 3 just because we supported not having alternative 4. So I'll do that amendment a little later.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Naxted. I'll circle back to you here in a minute. And I do appreciate you bringing that forward because I think that does probably clarify the intent a little bit better of the body and speak to that, that this isn't an advocacy for the other ones, but it's essentially just saying that we don't feel that alternative 4 is appropriate. Is there anybody else from the body that would like to weigh in at this time? Councilmember Glendenning.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. I'm supportive of what Councilman Naxted just told us and wholeheartedly support it. I just want to say that my Wi-Fi is fading in and out. I am supportive of this, and if you call on me and I don't get to you, perhaps it'll come back and I'll be able to vote in the affirmative. But if you just hold that thought, I'll shut up and let someone else talk.
And for clarification, Councilmember Glendenning, I believe you're talking about the proposed amendment that was the part of the laydown, or was the laydown?
Yes, I support Councilman Naxted's comments as I understand them and as I have read.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Is there anybody else from the council? Councilmember Petty.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel, for bringing this to our attention in such a timely manner. And I so appreciate every Adrift Fleet individual and community member who spoke and gave us greater insight about how this would actually affect our community. And also, I want to thank the individual who stated how alternative number 4 was inserted at the very end, the last meeting, so it doesn't give it opportunity for greater input on this. But I support this resolution wholeheartedly so that we can keep the viability of our economy and our traditions that have long held here at our community and our culture. Thank you for bringing this to our attention so that I will be in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Petty. Anybody else that would like to speak to Councilmember Winger?
Yes, I too just wanted to thank you, Mayor Gabriel, for bringing this forward to us and everybody that we heard get on tonight and testify on how this would impact them. One thing I had learned as a small business owner is when it's a rough fishing year, it's a rough year for small businesses. And just definitely going forward with supporting this and knowing that our commercial fishermen, that we support them, is very important. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Winger. Is there anybody else that would like to weigh in? Vice Mayor Malloy.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Yeah, like my colleagues, I want to thank the members of the public and from the industry that called in today to testify. As Mr. McCombs noted, was it from Kasilof, I believe, Kenai is also a coastal community, as we all know, and we need to preserve the character of Kenai, and commercial fishing is really important to that. I want to thank you for your memo too, Mayor Gabriel, reminding us of the economic impact of the seafood industry in South Central on all of our communities. 10,000 employees and 1.2 billion in revenue, and we don't need an alternative that would shut down commercial fishing in federal waters and Cook Inlet, especially when businesses are having such a hard time, surviving just in the current circumstances we have. So I wholeheartedly support your resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. And probably, just to segue on what you just said a little bit, if I could just opine a little bit more here, is that, this isn't about one user group over another. I think it's, a way for us to support, all user groups within our Cook Inlet drainage are important. And, I think we would even, if there was some, proposal to eliminate the guide industry in the Kenai River, I would hope that our body would move forward with, condemnation of that, because each group is important, and I think we all need to realize that. So, with that, I'll circle back to Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Looking at the laydown amendment that I have, I move to amend resolution number 2020-89 by adding a new section 2 as follows: that the city council has not considered which of the remaining alternatives should be adopted by the NPFMC, and then renumber the current section 2 to section 3.
Second.
Request unanimous consent.
Very good. Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, that motion is approved, and or the amendment is approved, and thank you for that, Councilmember Naxton. I guess I would go on to say, if there's no objection from the body, I would not be opposed or have any objection to all of us signing on. If everybody's in agreement with that, then certainly I would be in favor of that. So, is there any objection from this being signed by the entire body? Councilmember Naxton.
Certainly not an objection. I'm just logistically, I'm wondering, in our timeliness, how we might do that.
I guess I would defer to Ms. Hines. Would be the best way to facilitate that.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. If there's no objection, I can make a copy with a previous one that you've all signed, and I would just need for Tia to come in at some point in the next day to sign the one line, and then I will circle back and have you sign the official document to be with a wet signature, so it's official.
Very good. Councilmember Petty, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. Help me understand this, because I don't, Ms. Hines, are you saying that you're going to take my previous signature and put it on this? I don't want that. I do not want to do it that way.
Okay, then I can have to come back and sign it.
On this document, I never want my signature to ever be copied and pasted on any document. If I'm going to sign something, I want to sign the original document.
Okay, then we can arrange for you to stop by and sign it.
And I would suggest that every other council member do that as well. Thank you.
Councilmember Winger.
I'd be happy to stop by and get that signed, but I would just like to say I'm with Glenyce on that. I would like to physically sign documents, and I would be happy to stop in tomorrow and get that signature done.
Thank you. So, Vice Mayor Malloy.
Thank you.
Right.
If we're going back to the merits, I just have a quick comment on the merits.
Yes,
You're
very
ready.
good. Yes.
Just to follow up on your comment, I know that our council has passed several resolutions over the year supporting science-based decisions on commercial fisheries for all user groups. And I do recall, although I don't recall specifically, that there was an issue that came out, some proposal that would negatively impact the gear of set net fishers, I believe. And I think that we did a resolution that opposed that also. I think that what we're doing here, as you pointed out, is consistent with our previous support of science-based decisions and looking for all groups to have sufficient opportunity with the fish. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Malloy. Is there any further discussion on resolution number 2020-89 as amended? Councilmember Naxton.
I would like to give Jamie Hines permission to affix my signature. It's not an uncommon thing to do in business when it's expressly provided permission. So go right ahead.
Yeah, and I guess on that point, I would just say that if there's somebody that for Ms. Councilmember Winger and Councilmember Petty, who expressed an interest to sign, if there's anybody else, Councilmember Glendening, it looks like he wants to sign also. So please, this is a little bit time sensitive. So if you would please maybe get a hold of Ms. Hines and make sure you stop by and get that signed fairly quickly so we can get this submitted for comments, please. And with that, I guess I would, since I don't see any other discussion, ask for the clerk to call the vote on resolution 2020-89 as amended.
Vice Mayor Malloy,
Yes.
Councilmember Winger,
Yes.
Councilmember Glendening,
Yes.
Councilmember Petty,
Yes, thank you.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Councilmember Naxtet.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, everybody. I certainly appreciate your support on this. And seeing no other business before this body, we are adjourned.